Most people believe that thinking more will save them. They believe that if they analyze long enough, if they weigh every possibility, if they calculate every outcome, they will avoid mistakes and secure the perfect future. But Nietzsche saw something darker. He called it the sickness of reason, an invisible chain that strangles the spirit. Overthinking is not intelligence. It is paralysis. It is fear dressed up as logic. It convinces you that hesitation is wisdom, when in truth it is cowardice disguised as caution. Think of the countless hours you've spent replaying the same thought, the same memory, the same decision. You analyze it from every angle, and yet the more you think, the less you move. This is the first trap of overthinking, the illusion of control. You think that by dissecting life into pieces, you will master it, but instead, you become enslaved to your thoughts. Nietzsche warned that thought can easily become a cage, a prison with walls made of questions and doubts. The prisoner in this cell doesn't even realize they are imprisoned, because the chains are invisible, and the walls are built inside the mind. Why does this happen? Because overthinking is rarely about truth. It is about fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of death. The mind spins endlessly because it cannot face what is real. It is easier to stay in the cycle of thought than to act and risk being wrong. Nietzsche saw this in his time, and it has only grown worse in ours. Modern life rewards constant calculation, constant comparison, constant self-doubt. The more you think, the more respectable you appear. But inside, you rot, you hesitate, you stagnate. This is the great irony. The thinker who never acts is not wise. He is weak. The world does not respect the one who endlessly weighs options. The world respects the one who chooses, who risks, who creates. Nietzsche said, "The man of knowledge must be able not only to love his enemies, but also to hate his friends." What he meant is that clarity requires decisiveness. To live is to act, not to drown in thought. Overthinking is not a shield. It is a slow poison. It kills momentum. It kills courage. It kills life itself. Overthinking is a silent executioner. It does not stab you once and end your suffering. It drains you slowly, day after day, until you are hollow. You wake in the morning and the first thought that enters your mind is not a plan, not an inspiration, but a question. What if? The two words that seem harmless, but when repeated endlessly, they cut deeper than any blade. What if I fail? What if I choose wrong? What if people laugh? What if I lose everything? Nietzsche believed that this constant questioning is not a sign of intelligence, but of weakness. He wrote about the human tendency to build illusions, and overthinking is one of the most seductive illusions of all. It makes you feel like you are working. It makes you feel like you are progressing. But in reality, you are standing still. The thinker who does not act is like a soldier who sharpens his sword forever, but never enters the battlefield. The blade shines, but his life remains untouched by victory. Ask yourself, how many chances have you lost because of hesitation? How many relationships faded because you spent too long analyzing whether to speak? How many dreams died because you calculated every risk until the fire in your heart went cold? Overthinking doesn't protect you, it suffocates you. It robs you of the raw force of living. Nietzsche despised this paralysis. He believed that thought should be a weapon, not a cage. Thought should serve action, not replace it. In Thus Spoke Zarathustra, he wrote of the last man, the weak and complacent human being who avoids risk, avoids suffering, avoids passion, and lives in endless mediocrity. Overthinking creates the last man. It teaches you to avoid the wound, but also the glory. It teaches you to avoid pain, but also greatness. The trap is deeper than you realize. Because the overthinker begins to identify with their prison. They begin to believe that hesitation is who they are. They say, I am careful, I am analytical, I am rational. But Nietzsche would say, no, you are afraid. You are refusing to live. You are clinging to thoughts because you lack the courage to act. The truth is harsh. Overthinking is not the mark of a wise mind. It is the symptom of a fearful soul. And the longer you indulge it, the weaker you become. Life does not wait for you to decide. While you hesitate, it moves on. While you calculate, others act. And when the moment is gone, it never returns. Overthinking is a disease of the modern spirit. We worship the mind as if it were a god, and in doing so, we have forgotten how to live. Nietzsche saw this clearly. He believed that when thought becomes excessive, it turns against life itself. Instead of sharpening action, it corrodes it. Instead of giving clarity, it creates fog. Instead of freeing you, it enslaves you. The overthinker lives in a constant loop of self-doubt. Every choice becomes a labyrinth. Should I speak, or should I stay silent? Should I act, or should I wait? Should I take the risk, or should I retreat? And while these questions circle endlessly, life passes by. The overthinker becomes like a man standing at the edge of a river, debating for hours whether the water is too cold, whether the current is too strong, whether he will slip. And in the meantime, the river flows, the sun sets, and the chance to cross is gone forever. Nietzsche warned us of this trap because he understood that thought is never neutral. Thought can liberate you, but it can also bind you. He wrote that he who fights with monsters should see to it that he himself does not become a monster. Overthinking is such a monster. It consumes you slowly until you mistake your hesitation for virtue. You begin to call it caution. You begin to call it wisdom. But in truth, it is cowardice. You are not protecting yourself. You are betraying yourself. And here lies the deepest tragedy. Overthinking does not simply waste time. It destroys confidence. The more you hesitate, the more you doubt yourself. The more you analyze, the more you lose faith in your instincts. Action creates strength, but overthinking weakens you until you no longer trust the sound of your own voice. You become your own worst enemy, fighting battles that exist only in your head. Nietzsche believed that the only way to break free from this prison is through courage, raw, decisive, unapologetic courage. To act even when you are uncertain. To risk being wrong rather than rot in hesitation. To live dangerously as he demanded, because safety is the slowest form of death. And if this truth resonates with you, if you feel the weight of your own overthinking in these words, then take one small step right now. Break the cycle. Act. Begin by liking this video. Not because it helps me, but because it proves to you that you can act without hesitation. That even the smallest action can be a rebellion against the prison of thought. The cure for overthinking is not to stop thinking. Thought is not the enemy. Thought is the sharpest tool the human being possesses. But a tool left unused rusts, and a tool misused destroys its owner. Nietzsche believed that the problem is not thought itself, but the cowardice that hides inside it. When fear takes over, thinking becomes a shield that protects you from action, and so you sharpen the blade forever but never dare to strike. To break free, Nietzsche urged us to embrace a different kind of living, a life of danger, of risk, of creative chaos. Live dangerously, he wrote. Build your cities on the slopes of Vesuvius. What did he mean? That life is not meant to be lived in safety. Safety is stagnation. Overthinking is the illusion of safety, but in truth, it is the slowest form of death. You avoid mistakes, yes, but you also avoid victories. You avoid humiliation, yes, but you also avoid greatness. The overthinker lives in the shadows of possibility, paralyzed by what could go wrong. Nietzsche demands that we step into the fire, into the uncertainty, into the very chaos that terrifies us. Because within chaos lies creation. Within risk lies transformation. Think of every great artist, every revolutionary, every thinker Nietzsche admired. They all acted despite uncertainty. They all took the leap. They were mocked, rejected, even hated. But they lived. They carved their existence into the world instead of hiding in endless hesitation. You too have this choice. You can remain in the endless labyrinth of your thoughts, circling the same doubts until your spirit grows weak. Or you can risk action, risk failure, risk rejection, and in that risk discover a freedom that overthinking will never give you. Nietzsche's philosophy is not gentle, it is brutal because life itself is brutal, but within that brutality is beauty. The moment you act, even imperfectly, you reclaim your power. You remind yourself that you are alive, that you are not just a spectator of your own existence. To overcome overthinking, you must first accept a simple truth. There is no certainty. There never was. The mind lies to you, promising that if you think long enough, you will find the perfect answer. But Nietzsche laughs at this illusion. The perfect answer does not exist. There is only the courage to choose and to bear the consequences with strength. Overthinking is the art of dying without ever having lived. It is a silent assassin that convinces you to stay safe, to stay small, to stay invisible. But Nietzsche's message burns through this illusion. Life is not for the hesitant. Life belongs to those who dare, those who risk being wrong, those who risk being broken, those who risk being laughed at. For only in risk do you taste the fullness of existence. The tragedy of the overthinker is not that they are too intelligent. It is that they waste their intelligence in endless rehearsal. They rehearse every word, every move, every possible outcome, until their entire life becomes a dress rehearsal for a play that is never performed. And then the curtain falls. Time runs out. The life they feared to live slips quietly into the grave. Nietzsche reminds us that the purpose of thought is not to replace action, but to sharpen it. A warrior does not sharpen his blade to admire its shine. He sharpens it to strike. You must strike. You must live. This is why Nietzsche demanded that we embrace chaos. Chaos is life's natural state, and from chaos we create. Overthinking rejects chaos, seeks safety, and ends up suffocating the very soul it tries to protect. If you want freedom, you must stop polishing the bars of your cage and instead break them. So the next time you feel your mind spinning in endless circles, remember, you are not your thoughts. You are the one who chooses whether those thoughts enslave you or empower you. You can waste your life analyzing the river, or you can step into the water and feel it carry you forward. The choice is yours. Will you remain a prisoner of thought, or will you claim the dangerous freedom of life? And if these words cut through your hesitation, then act. Prove to yourself that you are more than your doubts. Subscribe, turn on the bell, and join this journey, because there is more truth waiting in the shadows. But beware, if overthinking is the prison of the mind, then shame is the chain that keeps you locked inside. And in the next video, we'll uncover how shame manipulates you, controls you, and how to break free before it destroys everything.